Hi there, I'm C. Scott Brown from Authority Media, and I'm here with Chris LaPré from CSA. First, before we get into it, tell me a little about who you are and what you do.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, first of all. I'm Chris LaPré, like you said. I'm the head of technology at the Connectivity Standards Alliance. We used to be the Zigbee Alliance. We now are a multi-working group alliance. One of our working groups is Matter, and that's probably what most of the questions will be about. But we do have a number of other working groups as well that we're working on, all IoT-based things that we feel are necessary for the IoT to be good for consumers.
Excellent. So Matter has been in the news a lot, and but a lot of people might not quite understand like what it is and why it's important. So just for like a real basic overview, what is Matter and why is it going to make our lives better when it comes to smart home?
Yeah. So maybe I won't jump right into what it is, but what the problem that it went out to solve was what we call a sort of walled garden of IoT problem. That you basically had to buy technologies that had, I like to joke about the hieroglyphics on the back of the box, right? And then you had your hieroglyphics of the hubs that you had in your home, and you had to do the decoding, the magic decoder ring. Is this going to work in my home? Maybe if I connect it to that hub, and then, will that all work? We attempted to solve all that. All the different ecosystems, all the different device manufacturers had their own sets of technologies that they wanted. What was one technology that everybody would be willing to use? So we started with adoption in mind. What would you adopt? And now we worked through the process. It took us about 3 years and made sure we kept everybody on board, that they were still on board to adopt it widespread when we were done.
So a quick question about that. Was this difficult to do? Was it difficult to get all these companies to sort of like agree on this one thing?
Well, so, I mean, I think it depends on what your timeline is. Certainly if you go back 10, 12 years when this was all started, I think everybody had the vision that, if I sell one device to you, I can lock you in, and, cell phone operators did that for a while, way back to internet access with CompuServe and those kinds of things. They all tried to do that, but basically open usually wins in the end, and in this case, it just took a while. So if you go back then yeah, no one was going to just like, right, we just need to do it that way, like 10 years ago. But fast forward to about 3 years ago, I think the right conversations were starting to be had. And there were, and also I think you can look at silicon prices coming down as well. IP was one of the things that I think really often solves those problems of this or that. Well, IP is really the right technology and has been for 25 years, broadly speaking. But now the price of IP supporting technologies, Wi-Fi and Thread, have come down more and more, such that it's not cost prohibitive to put it into a doorbell or into a smart plug or a light bulb. So those two things kind of happened, and then I think also another way to look at it was the predictions of numbers that were coming out way back when. I remember the one that was a hockey stick, trillions of devices by 2020, or maybe some. It was nowhere like that, right? It was this linear, small growth. So what was happening there? It was really the complexity of what we talked about before that was holding people back. So all that sort of came together at the same time, and so that's where we ended up.
So with Matter, if I have a product from Amazon and I also have a product from Google, this is going to make it so that those two products can work together to operate in my smart home without me having to do anything extra. Is that like the basic principle behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we can talk about sort of some timing situations where we're in right now. But yeah, if that Amazon thing has a Matter logo on it and that Google thing had a Matter logo on it, then yes, they can talk to each other. I think you've also got the common sense, is my Google fireplace going to talk to my Amazon toaster? They can talk to each other, but what are they going to do for each other?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But so, yes, a light switch can talk to a light bulb in that capacity.
Right. Okay. And so that's like the core of what Matter is trying to solve, is this problem of being like, I have all these devices and maybe I want a new device, but that device isn't part of my ecosystem, so therefore I just can't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that spot in time in the future where Matter's well supported by all the ecosystems, then yes, you buy the Matter, you see the Matter logo, yep, it's going to work.
It's going to work.
With confidence.
Right. Okay, cool. So we know that, like you just mentioned, light switches, light bulbs, those kinds of things. But there are things not unlike what you were talking about with the fireplace and the toaster, which obviously probably aren't going to talk together. But there are other things that could talk together that maybe, we don't see quite yet. And so what's kind of the timeline for that? And as an example for what I'm talking about, maybe something along the lines of a light switch and a robot vacuum. I turn the lights on in my office and the robot vacuum comes out and does its thing. Like, is that something that is feasible? And what kind of timeline do we have for that kind of integration?
Right. So, I mean, the specific example you just used is something that, so in one of my past lives, I was at Iris Lowe's, sort of a similar thing to what like Smart Things does. We tried to be creative with those kinds of rules that almost any like light turning on could activate a bunch of other things.
Right.
So with that kind of a rule in an ecosystem, you could do that today. But that's not specifically in the protocol per se. You mentioned robot vacuums. What we have we've started with a core set of smart home device types, minus cameras, which is another thing we're working on. But so all those device types work today. Robot vacuums are something that we're working on. We're calling sort of a fast follow. Hopefully, we're going to come out with a spring release and then a fall release on a 6-month cadence. So hopefully, robot vacuums will make that 6-month release in spring. It's sort of targeted to do that. Cameras is on a slightly longer trajectory, and it won't make that release.
Yeah, so things are there. There's a lot going on. There's a
Yeah.
lot in progress and a lot that's going to come out this year.
Yes.
Because I feel like Matter has been something that we've been talking about for quite a long time, and it's only just now starting. But now it's going to start like gaining steam.
Right. So right now, what you're going to see in the next couple of months, and I think a lot at this event, is those device types we talked about. You can, in the home, door locks, blinds, garage door openers, lights, sensors for do-it-yourself security. Those types of devices, those you're going to start to see come out more and more. We have a number of other sets of work, teams working on things like robot vacuums. They're on a fast trajectory to follow. Appliances is also on a fast follow, like white goods,
Right.
bigger appliances in your kitchen. Those are the two that are pretty likely to make that first 6-month release. But then we have like a bunch of energy management work being done. That's on a slightly longer trajectory, but electric vehicles, other ways to try to save you money. Your solar panels are kicking out some extra energy. Maybe charge that car the rest of the way. But then in the middle of the day, when if it's cloudy out, maybe don't pull
Right.
energy off the grid to charge your car from 80% to 100%,
Right.
or heat a bunch of extra hot water. Those kinds of savings. That's work is being done as well. So there's a lot of energy around that. No pun intended, sort of. And then we're also starting to look into some other areas of interest as well, with people asking about things like medical devices, for example. We don't have a group for that yet, but that's somewhere where we're starting to see an amount of interest. And that can be almost anything. Well, that's a longer conversation.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've noticed with Matter devices is that sometimes things don't carry over between them. So for example, let's say I have a light bulb in my living room, and that light bulb is labeled as being in the living room. And then I have a different situation, a different device that's, all the device name, the carryover of the rooms might not be totally there.
Yeah.
Is that something that's being...
It's definitely something that's being worked on, but maybe let me just explain it a little
Sure,
bit for
sure.
your listeners.
Yeah.
One of the statistics that I came across relatively recently, and I forget the source, I can come back with it eventually. 2/3 of homes have 0 smart devices in them. Right?
Really?
Like most
Wow.
homes have none.
Yeah.
Right?
Not with people here.
I know that's funny. I have a lot too, and then it's this trajectory of and again, it's a question of chicken and an egg here, right? Like, what is your path from your first device to your second device to your third device? Today, I think most people might get some connected device and it works with their Alexa, and that's great. And then they get some other connected device, and yeah, maybe it works with Alexa, but they don't talk to each other, right?
Right.
It's just a different smart plug or a different doorbell, and there's no, maybe there's a rule, like when the doorbell rings, turn the light on,
Yeah.
but that's just this weird special rule that some ecosystem sort of created. So what is your trajectory through that? And I think the path through all of this today leads us to what we call multi-ecosystem homes, and sometimes it's gifts, right? Like, yeah, I'm an Alexa home, but my mom got me this, Nest's display, and so I put it in the kitchen, and now we have those two things. But there's reasons for that, right? And I think what we're going to see now that Matter sort of solves a lot of the underlying problems, like, oh, everything is just Matter. I have a smart speaker that is brand X. I'm just going to continue to stick my Matter devices on my brand X thing. And this is going to be a real problem for those 66% of the homes, in their first 10, 15, 20 devices. And then at some point, then they're going to need like, oh, well, that ecosystem does this and this ecosystem does that. So what you're talking about is what we call, in the spec, we call it multi-admin. I think multi-ecosystem or multi-hub might make more sense. So where I can have a device communicating with one hub, and then I can put it in a mode to make it talk to the other hub. And in that case, you're right, the names of it, like I might have named it living room light and put it in a living room in this hub. It doesn't carry over here. I might not have a living room over here, right? So it might, I might have named a bunch of different rooms, and it might be my roommate who calls that the salon, right? And how are they supposed to know that, that that's the same room, or he connects it to the fact that it's above the TV. That's not the living room light, that's the TV light, So where we landed on our sort of first instance is those kinds of things shouldn't be carried over.
Okay.
I mentioned that ecosystem group that's on this longer trajectory. They are talking about that, sort of basically creating a standard for what the rooms could be called, and what they should be called. What are the 10 most common rooms, and how does that information carry across? So that work is being done. Like I said, there's no real timeline for it to be done, but we are considering the problem. We definitely have heard the feedback, but I still come back to that trajectory that I think most consumers are on, and
it makes sense because like I call the living room, somebody else might call it the den.
Right.
Which one is the one that we adopt as being the universal whatever?
Right. So even if it comes across the pipe, living room, well, now on the other side, how do they map that?
Exactly.
You can't be quite smart enough to know that it's a salon or a den. And maybe you were wrong, right? Maybe there is a den.
Maybe I have a den and a living room.
Then it would just be confusing.
Right?
If it came across that way. So.
No, that makes sense. How likely do you think it is that we're going to see Matter become the default? In other words, that, because right now we're seeing Matter being introduced here at CES on a lot of new devices, and we're seeing Matter going to be pushed out to a lot of existing devices over the next year or two. But how likely do you think it is that everything will just automatically come with Matter?
Yeah, I was on a panel yesterday, and I'm like, well, obviously, right? But I mean, it's a really good question, right? And I think a lot of it comes down to our members' timelines, right? Now they've done the hard work for us. We're a member-driven organization. They did all the real heavy lifting in terms of getting Matter to where it is now. Now they've kind of got to go back to their day jobs and figure out what all the SKUs are and how those SKUs get updated. And some of the SKUs might not have enough flash space or RAM to be updated. And how do you manage all that? So that's I think, for a lot of our team, the sort of Connectivity Standards Alliance team that's been working on Matter for 3 years now, a lot of them are going to go back to core engineering efforts and do that really hard, what I would say really hard work.
Yeah.
And that type of work, having done it before, takes months, sometimes years. So I think there's going to be this 80-20 rule, as usual, where, I think 80% of, and most new devices, I think, are really,
that's what we're seeing here.
Trajectory is like, if I'm putting out a new thing, I'm not going to, not do Matter now. I might even wait a month or two to get Matter, but it's really like, I don't want to call out any specific devices out there, but, devices that are in the millions out there already, upgrading all those devices. Okay, maybe some of these SKUs might not make it across. But whatever you're using to communicate with that device today, that's not Matter, that will continue to work tomorrow.
Right.
So unless you're like sort of stuck in some ecosystem because of one device and you really want to carry it across, and we've seen that as well, but whatever you're doing today will work, and so arguably you might not want to upgrade it because it's working, and that upgrade process sometimes breaks, not anything to do with us. It's just whenever I boot load anything, there's a chance of failure.
Right.
So, so all of that put together, I think it's going to be a number of months before we're seeing, broadly speaking, it comes back to the separation of types of users, like that 66%, I think, for them, it's going to be pretty quick, in the next 4 or 5 months, they're going to see everything that they're interested in being Matter, of course, with cameras being a little bit of a lag.
Right.
But then for us, who have complicated homes now, we're still going to have complicated homes, but the purchase process for the new stuff will become easier.
Yeah.
But it is that dichotomy that I'm struggling with a little bit on the answer.
It's
just a little different.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a long process, but it would be interesting to see if, like you said, the 66% of homeowners who don't have smart home stuff, like in a year, those people are going to have such an easier time than we had developing stuff, because there's going to be so much stuff on the market that's going to be Matter compatible.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a good spot to mention as well. There are other reasons why people are reticent to buy smart devices in their home. Privacy is one of them.
Right.
That is one of the other working groups that we're looking into as well. What are the problems that are stopping people from buying IoT? Those are the things that, the Connectivity Standards Alliance is trying to help solve. And that's one that's just getting, underway where, yep, that's a problem. We need to solve it. How do you do that? But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, so I think I just have one more here. What is the thing that you personally are looking forward to the most with the Matter rollout? What is most exciting to you?
Yeah, so I started hinting at this already, and I think Matter is really this enabling thing, and so I'm going to take a little bit of a liberty here and probably say three things, right? So,
okay.
But they'll be quick. The first one is experiences, right? I think there'll be a number of companies that can lean into experiences, right? I'm not going to be able to compete with the big ecosystems on everything, right? They're going to do everything. But maybe I can't think of a really great example right now, but like maybe I can do lighting better than them. Maybe I can do heating better than them, or security, do-it-yourself security. Some really neat experience that they might be able to do better. And then, it's just going to be an app on your phone. It's going to detect all the lights in your home. And then I'm going to, do the motion sensing and maybe save you energy. That leads me to my second one, which is energy management. I think it's going to be one of the experiences. And that's going to really help start to move the bar. In this country in particular, we have a worldwide membership, probably slightly more companies in Europe that join us. And in Europe, it's actually a big deal. Energy is a lot more expensive.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems.
There's a lot of rules coming in with smart buildings and other things where they don't really know how to solve those problems. But Matter, if it is a ubiquitous network around your home, okay, I have an app. I find all your hot water heater, your electric vehicle, we kind of hinted at this before, your solar panels, your battery wall, and I'm going to help you manage all that, right? Like, not make you uncomfortable, not make you hot or cold. What are your preferences? When are you home? When are you not home? Don't heat hot water when you're not home,
right.
et cetera.
And it's stuff you don't even need to think about. It just does it automatically.
Going to do it. And it's going to save, that's going to really start to move the bar in terms of saving money or saving greenhouse gas, effect, footprint, carbon
energy
footprint
efficiency
as well. And then the last one I'll just mention, and again, it's already mentioned it, it's on a much longer trajectory, but is medical. Healthcare in this country and all around the world actually is a dire problem. And being able to do more and more in homes, not having people go to hospitals where,
overcrowding.
I might get more sick at the hospital, for a broken toe. So what can we do at home? And those devices are going to need connectivity. Those doctors are going to need to see that. And that's also going to need privacy concerns, right? Not so much privacy, but sharing, right? Like keep the data private, yes, but share it with that doctor. Don't share this information with that doctor.
Right.
Maybe I want my kids or my mom to know about this information, but not that,
Yeah.
How do we solve that problem? That's a really big problem. And those are the kinds of things that, I think Matter is going to enable in the next couple of years. And that's what we're looking into. So
excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been great. You've been very helpful and informative. This has been awesome.
Yeah. Great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.